president.
You can't hear the word Kryptonite without conjuring up images of the Man of Steel himself. That's right, we're diving into the radioactive fragments of Superman's home planet, Krypton, the notorious Kryptonite. Now you might think of it as that familiar, vibrant green, but there's more to it than meets the eye. Just like the rock and mineral world, Kryptonite comes in all sorts of shapes, sizes, and colors. And trust me, it's not all about the eye-catching green. Each of these Kryptonian rocks has its own bag of tricks. And when Superman crosses paths with them, things get interesting. In this episode, we're gonna take you on a wild ride through the multicolored spectrum of Kryptonite and show you just how each shade messes with the Man of Steel. So get ready to explore the rainbow of Kryptonite craziness that could turn even Superman into a man of, Before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Green Kryptonite, the OG Kryptonite, the green stuff. It's not only the most common, but also the one that started this whole Kryptonite craze. You see, this emerald-hued menace has a knack for sapping Kryptonians of all their superpowers. When a Kryptonian comes into contact with this green meanie, things go downhill faster. At first, they start feeling like they've caught the flu, which is a tough break for anyone. If they don't get away from this green nightmare, it's a one-way ticket to Weeksville. Yup, they'll just keep getting weaker and weaker until it's lights out. At first, we thought that this green Kryptonite radiation was all hunky-dory for non-Kryptonians, but it turns out Lex Luthor sported a ring with Kryptonite in it for years, and the exposure to the stuff turned out to be carcinogenic. Blue Kryptonite, the elusive blue Kryptonite. It's like the cosmic yin to green Kryptonite's yang when it comes to bizarros. In the pages of Superman number 140, October 1960, our hero, the Man of Steel, takes a trip to Bizarro World. It's a place inhabited by poor, twisted creatures, and it's ruled by none other than Bizarro, Superman's downright bizarre doppelganger. Now, when it comes to blue Kryptonite, it's a double whammy for these bizarros. Just as green Kryptonite packs a punch for regular Kryptonians, blue Kryptonite hits bizarros right in the kisser. And while blue Kryptonite drives bizarros bonkers, it's the ultimate antidote to the notorious red Kryptonite. So when you've got a case of red Kryptonite-induced weirdness, just break out the blue stuff and you'll be right as rain. And Superman and his Kryptonian pals, they can strut their stuff around blue Kryptonite all day long and it won't phase them out one bit. Red Kryptonite. Red Kryptonite, the cosmic wild card that made its debut in Adventure Comics number 255 back in September 1958. This stuff is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Red Kryptonite is like a game of roulette for Kryptonians. Every exposure is a roll of the dice, and the results are as unpredictable as a squirrel on a sugar rush. One day, it might turn you into a full-fledged dragon, scales and all. The next, you could be rocking an epic beard. And someday, bam, you've got telepathy. In the post-crisis continuity, Batman decided to take matters into his own hands. He cooked up an artificial version of red Kryptonite. This variant is all about turning Kryptonian skin translucent, which is okay, right? Wrong. This translucent skin makes him absorb excessive solar energy. The result? Kryptonians go from faster than a speeding bullet to barely walking. Black Kryptonite. Black Kryptonite, a creation that would make even the craftiest villains in Smallville take a step back. This rock didn't just stumble into existence, it was cooked up right in the heart of Smallville with one heck of a mission: to help Clark Kent give his evil twin, Kal-El, a run for his money. It's Clark versus Kal-El, an epic showdown between the mild-mannered reporter and his darker alter ego. But how do you settle a score when it's like fighting your own reflection in a hall of mirrors? That's where Black Kryptonite struts it. This bad boy does what synthetic Kryptonite did in Superman 3. It physically splits Clark and Kal-El apart, like they're two peas in a cosmic pod. You might recall a certain Supergirl facing a similar split. Yup, Black Kryptonite did its thing there too, turning Kara Zor-El into a tag team of good and evil. Crimson Kryptonite. In the post-crisis continuity, Crimson Kryptonite comes onto the scene as a brainchild of that mischievous imp from the 5th dimension, Mr. Mxyzptlk. This little gem had one job: to give Superman a one-way ticket to Powerlessville. This Kryptonite didn't play by the usual radioactive rules. Nope, it could make soups as human as the guy next door, and the effect, it could stick around like a bad habit. That's right, Superman couldn't be stuck in his Clark Kent getup indefinitely, unable to leap tall buildings or stop speeding locomotives. The only way out of this power-draining nightmare was for Luthor had to spill the beans to Clark Kent, Superman's alter ego, that Mr. Mxyzptlk was the one behind this shenanigans, all without realizing he was confessing to the Man of Steel's true identity. Yup, that's all he needs: truth. Gold Kryptonite, the rare breed of mineral, isn't your regular space rock. It's the superhero equivalent of the off switch. You've got a Kryptonian basking in the golden glow of Earth's yellow sun, enjoying powers that make Superman. But then, along comes Gold Kryptonite, and poof, it's lights out for soups. It takes away a Kryptonian's ability to soak up yellow sunlight, the very thing that fuels their superpowers. Gold Kryptonite isn't out to harm Kryptonian life in any other way. It's not here to turn them into mutants or make them speak in rhymes like a certain Riddler. It's a one-trick pony, solely focused on robbing our super friends of their extraordinary abilities. White Kryptonite. White Kryptonite isn't the kind of rock that'll send superheroes running for cover. In fact, if you stumbled upon it, you could give it a high five, juggle it like a circus clown, and not feel a thing. No zap, no sizzle, nada. White Kryptonite doesn't mess around. It's like kryptonite but for plants and on steroids. The moment it touches those innocent blades of grass, it unleashes a plague of plant destruction that make poison ivy do a happy dance. White Kryptonite is like plant napalm, wiping out every bit of green it touches. So, if you ever find yourself carrying this piece of terror, you better watch your back. Silver Kryptonite. It's not your typical kryptonite that zaps soups of his superpowers or turns him into a dragon. Nope, this one's got its own bizarre agenda. When a Kryptonian comes into contact with this oddball kryptonite, it's like they've stumbled upon a galactic buffet. Think of it as a never-ending craving for pizza after a long night of crime fighting. And hallucinations? Well, let's just say it's like a cosmic magic show in your head. In Smallville, they took this trippy twist to a whole new level. Instead of acting like a drug, this kryptonite decided to mess with Clark's mind big time. It turned him into the king of paranoia, making him see conspiracies behind every corner and delusions that everyone was out to get him. It's a kryptonite that's less about weakness and more about confusion, a trip through the space-time continuum where even Superman might consider calling in sick. Pink Kryptonite. Imagine this, you've got the Man of Steel, the superhero poster boy, doing his usual heroic thing, when suddenly, bam, Pink Kryptonite decides to play its trump card. Next thing you know, Superman's gone from Lois Lane's dreamboat to, well, someone else's dreamboat. That's right, this Kryptonite makes Superman do a complete 180 on his love interests. And let me tell you, this moment in Supergirl comics became famous faster than you can imagine. It was jarring, surprising, and had fans doing a double take. Further, in the Justice League action animated series, Pink Kryptonite pulls another fast one. This time, it's about Superman's entire identity. Firestorm, in a bit of mad scientist brilliance, turns Metallo's kryptonite heart into a pink one. The radiation from this gem doesn't just weaken Supes, it turns them into a woman of steel, just as effective and powerful as ever. Purple Kryptonite. In an early appearance in Adventure Comics number 171, Kryptonite decides to break the color code and goes all purple, but it doesn't act just like your standard Kryptonite. Now some folks have scratched their heads and wondered if this purple variant was just a rare gem in the comics. But let's be real, the chances of that happening are slimmer than a stick figure. Most likely it was a case of the writer's color indecision or a coloring mishap. But the purple Kryptonite mystery doesn't end there. Enter DC's Superhero Girls, where this purple oddball is alive and kicking. And guess what? It's got a new trick. Instead of weakening Superman or turning him into a potted plant, this kryptonite goes all hypnotic on us. And to top it off, Lena Luthor decides to play mad scientist and whips up some purple Kryptomites. That's right, it's like Kryptonite had a reunion and they're all dressed in purple. Platinum Kryptonite. Platinum Kryptonite. Now you might expect a Kryptonite to make Superman shake in his boots like always, but this one's a real curveball. When it comes to Supes and his Kryptonian pals, it's as harmless as a marshmallow. But here's where things get wild. This Kryptonite decided to play favorites and chose humans as its guinea pigs. Its radiation is like a recipe book, and it's got just one dish on the menu: Kryptonian powers for humans. It takes an ordinary human and turns them into a full-fledged Kryptonian. However, it hasn't appeared much in the comic book world. Originally, Superman gave this cosmic gift to Batman as a present, but of course, the Dark Knight doesn't indulge in such super shenanigans himself. Instead, he passed the baton to Claire Glover, aka Gotham Girl. She became technically Gotham City's most powerful superhero. Yellow Kryptonite. The infamous Yellow Kryptonite. The first time it graced the pages of comics, it was all part of a mastermind plot by Lex Luthor himself. You see, Luthor was up to his old tricks, orchestrating a hoax that had Superman and us readers fooled. He cooked up a batch of fake kryptonite, including the deceptive yellow variety, all designed to make Supes think twice before going all out. And guess what? It worked like a charm. Superman, being the cautious guy that he is, held back, thinking he was staring at the Achilles heel. But Luthor soon discovered that the Superman he faced wasn't the real deal, but a snazzy Superman robot. Now fast forward to Superman Family Adventures number 2, and boom, Yellow Kryptonite is back, and this time it's for real. But the effects of this kryptonite remain as mysterious as a locked treasure chest. We're left hanging, wondering what chaos it could unleash. Cryptomites. Cryptomites, those little troublemakers that Lena Luthor cooked up. These guys are like the comic book version of the Minions, but with a twist. Lena, up to her usual mischief, decided to whip up some sentient mineral lifeforms. How? Well, she used a combo of kryptonite dust, swipe right from Supergirl's Kryptonian rocket, throw in some alien tech because why not? And voila, you've got yourself a Cryptomite. These Cryptomites come in all the colors of the rainbow, like a Crayola set. We're talking green, red, blue, yellow, orange, and purple. Now you might be thinking, hey, they're just colorful rocks. What harm could they do? Well, my friends, these rocks have an attitude problem. Depending on their color, their radiation can turn humans into a hot mess. We're talking irrational anger, paranoia that would make even the Riddler blush, confusion that rivals a Rubik's Cube, and fear that could send Scooby-Doo running. Artificial synthetic kryptonite. Let's talk about Superman 3, a roller coaster of a movie that left us with some hidden gem moments. We saw synthetic kryptonite, the accidental creation of none other than Richard Pryor's character Gus Gorman. Gus, not exactly a rocket scientist, gets his hands on some ingredients and decides to whip up his own version of kryptonite. The moment Superman gets exposed to the stuff, it's like his moral compass takes a nosedive, and he turns into the poster boy for bad decisions. He's not just your friendly superhero anymore. He's a darker, more sinister version of himself. But fear not, in the end, the heroic side of Superman prevails and he shakes off the influence of the synthetic kryptonite. Kryptonite X or Cryptesium. In the Adventures of Superman number 511, April 1994, our beloved Man of Steel returns from a galactic jaunt only to discover that his superpowers have gone haywire. So what's the deal? Well, Supes, in his not-so-super state, ends up causing some serious havoc in Metropolis. Buildings shake, cars fly, and even his trusty spandex starts to feel a bit snug. But fear not, because in times of super crisis, there's always a genius scientist to save the day. Enter Emil Hamilton, the brains behind the brawn. He takes one look at Supes and goes, aha, Kryptonite X, or if you prefer a fancier name, Cryptesium. This is the one and only appearance of Kryptonite X in the comic book universe. It's like a one-hit wonder that came, caused chaos, and then vanished into the cosmic sunset. Slow Kryptonite. Slow Kryptonite, a variety of kryptonite that Metallo cooked up in his villainous kitchen. But first, let's talk science, shall we? You see, the name Slow Kryptonite isn't just for show. It's all about the rays it emits. Normal kryptonite, that green troublemaker, sends out rays that are like Speedy Gonzales, racing through the air at breakneck speed. Now, those rays are perfectly synced with the accelerated Kryptonian body, making it the superhero equivalent of kryptonite catnip. But slow kryptonite, it releases rays that are like a lazy Sunday afternoon, slow and relaxed. These rays sync up perfectly with the slower, non-Kryptonian human body. Kryptonite Plus. Kryptonite Plus, the multicolored mystery stones that had the comic book world scratching its head. These cosmic gems, numbering around 30 or so, were a gift from our intergalactic pals. Now, these aliens, they claimed these weren't just your regular kryptonite rocks. Oh no, they went all out and called them Kryptonite Plus or Ultra Kryptonite. Sounds pretty fancy, right? Well, they were actually Tikron stones. These Tikron stones pulled a bait and switch on us all. Magno Kryptonite, a tale about Mr. Nero, alias Truff, an extraterrestrial hailing from the planet Pyron. Now this guy is a mad scientist with a twist. In the pages of Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen number 92, April 1966, Truff decides to flex his intergalactic muscles and cooks up something he calls Magno Kryptonite. Sounds fancy, right? Well, Magno Kryptonite is a magnet. It's got a magnetic attraction to anything that comes from Krypton. Now Truff, being the villainous mastermind that he is, hatches a plan to see the Earth ablaze using this magnetic marvel. But fear not, because who comes to the rescue? None other than the plucky Jimmy Olsen, the unsung hero of the Superman universe. And here's a bonus fact: even the combined strength of Superman and Bizarro can't escape the cosmic charm of Magno Kryptonite. Jewel Kryptonite, the secret of Kryptonite 6, a tale that takes us on a wild ride through the pages of Action Comics number 310, straight back to the good old days of March 1964. In this cosmic caper, we've got a former Kryptonian scientist named Jax, who's not exactly on Superman's list of favorite people. He decides to pull a fast one on the Man of Steel, tricking him into a trip back to pre-destruction Krypton under some pretty sneaky pretenses. But Jax-Ur's got a sneaky ulterior motive. He's not there for nostalgia. He's there for a piece of Krypton's Jewel Mountains. And why, you ask? Because these gems have the magical power to supercharge Kryptonian criminals locked up in the dreaded Phantom Zone, including the notorious General Zod. It's like a heist, but with superpowered convicts instead of your typical crooks. And let's be honest, when Jax-Ur is involved, things are bound to get wilder than a comic book convention. Anti-Kryptonite. Anti-Kryptonite, the mirror image of everyone's favorite green kryptonite. This bad boy doesn't even tickle Kryptonians, but oh boy, it packs a punch for us mere mortals. You see, while Superman could have a leisurely picnic on a bed of anti-Kryptonite, it's a whole different story for us humans. It's like green kryptonite on steroids, poisoning and weakening us. But in the wild and wacky antimatter universe, anti-Kryptonite is like their version of a power-up. It's the fuel that keeps the engine running for none other than Clark Kent, aka Ultraman, the poster boy for the Crime Syndicate of America. Now, the Crime Syndicate of America isn't your superhero team. Nope, they're the bad guys of the antimatter universe, and Ultraman is their heavyweight champ. X Kryptonite. Let's journey back in time to the cosmic creation of X Kryptonite by one and only Kara Zor-El, better known as Supergirl. This tale unfolds in the pages of Action Comics number 261, way back in 1960. Now, Supergirl, always a go-getter, had this brilliant idea to whip up the X Kryptonite. Her goal? To counteract the not-so-friendly effects of green kryptonite. But her experiment didn't exactly go as planned. It's like trying to bake a cake and ending up with a plate of spaghetti. Instead of being the ultimate green kryptonite antidote, X Kryptonite had a wild and wacky side effect. It turned regular Earthlings, both humans and animals, into super-powered beings. But in Superman Family, number 203, way back in 1980, someone decided to hit the reset button. They retconned X Kryptonite, making it the same as green kryptonite. Blood Kryptonite. In the pages of 52, things get crazier than a Deadpool stand-up routine. This time, we're talking about the Cult of Connor, a religious sect with a pretty unique mission, resurrecting Superboy. And how do they plan to do it? Well, with something they call Blood Kryptonite. Now, don't let the name fool you. Blood Kryptonite looks just like green kryptonite, but instead of zapping Kryptonians' powers, this stuff drains the life force from anyone nearby. Why, you ask? Well, they're not just doing a it for fun. The cult of Connor wants to channel this energy into an effigy of the late Sue Dibney, the Justice League administrator, all in the hopes of bringing her back to life. But it turns out this whole blood kryptonite thing was a con job. Felix Faust, the ultimate manipulator, had his grubby hands in the mix. And guess what? That rock they thought was blood kryptonite, it was either just regular green kryptonite or heck, maybe not kryptonite at all. Bizarro White Kryptonite. Bizarro White Kryptonite, a twist on the classic Kryptonite saga. But don't be fooled by the name. This stuff is more surprising than you think. So there's this episode of Superboy where Bizarro is causing mayhem left and right, like a bull in a china shop. Superboy decides to put his thinking cap on and goes, "Hey, let's try that duplication process that made Bizarro." But instead of creating another Bizarro, this duplication process spits out something unexpected. This resulting mineral isn't here to harm, it's here to heal. To everyone's surprise, this mineral works like a band-aid, fixing Bizarro up and curing his instability issues. Orange Kryptonite. It's the colorful world of Krypto, the Superdog number 4, 2007. In this perfectly entertaining story titled The Perfect Crime, we're introduced to Orange Kryptonite. Now, this stuff isn't here to take away the powers of Kryptonians. It's here to give animals a taste of the superhero life, but with a 24-hour expiration date. Enter our furry felons, the notorious Cats, Isis, and Snooky Wookums. They get their mischievous paws on some orange kryptonite and decide to unleash a wave of pet crimes on the world. But fear not, our four-legged superheroes come to the rescue. Krypto, Streaky, and a bunch of other heroic pets form a superpowered team to take down these criminal kitties. Periwinkle Kryptonite. In the wacky Tiny Titans continuity, the genius Brainiac decides to spice things up a bit and zapped Superman with a Periwinkle Kryptonite ray. Now you might think this sounds like an avant-garde fashion choice, but it's more than just a color swap. This cosmic ray turned Soup's skin and costume Periwinkle and even gave him a brief stint as the ultimate charmer. Lois Lane couldn't resist his newfound charm and dance moves, but the surprises don't end here. Folks, later that same day, Lois decided to get in on the Periwinkle Kryptonite action and used a physical piece of the stuff on Clark Kent. And guess what? It had the exact same effect. Now, if that wasn't enough, let's switch gears to the DC Superhero Girls TV series continuity. In this colorful world, Periwinkle Kryptonite has a unique impact. It makes Kryptonians feel giddy, like they just won the lottery. But for Bizarros, it's a one-way ticket to fits of rage. Amber Kryptonite. Lois Lane, our intrepid reporter turned mastermind. She's not content with simply chasing headlines. Oh no, she has grander designs. With the help of this unheard of Amber Kryptonite, she orchestrates a shocking plan. She siphons the abilities of her world's Superman and makes them her own. But Lois doesn't stop there. After dispatching her world's Man of Steel, she embarks on a sinister mission. She dissects the Amber Kryptonite into fragments, distributing them like dark souvenirs to fellow anti-meta cohorts. Her ultimate objective? To assemble an army of superpowered zealots, united in a chilling crusade against the world of supers. Krypton Steel. Krypton Steel, a peculiar chapter in the ever-expanding world of superheroes. In the iconic challenge of the Super Friends episode, Super Friends, Rest in Peace, Krypton Steel takes center stage. Now, according to the cunning Lex Luthor himself, Krypton Steel is billed as a harmless form of kryptonite, but it's a substance that only the Man of Steel, our very own Superman, can break. A refined metal with properties akin to your everyday iron alloy steel, but with that added touch of superhero flair. In this tale, Superman gets crafty and fashions a box made entirely of this intriguing Krypton Steel. What's inside the box? A confiscated weapon that the Legion of Doom had their mitts on, and the Legion, always up to their tricks, manages to outsmart the Man of Steel. They concoct a scheme to trick Superman into opening the box for them. Purple Spotted Kryptonite. In the wacky world of the Krypto, the Superdog cartoon, our heroic pup, Krypto, encounters this unique variety of kryptonite. But it's not exactly the planet-saving, power-draining substance we're used to. Instead, Purple Spotted Kryptonite has a hilariously unexpected effect on our furry hero, Krypto, the mighty Superdog, reduced to chasing his own tail like a pup caught in a game of fetch. It's like the ultimate canine conundrum. Red-Green Kryptonite. This is where red meets green and mutates the Man of Steel in the most unexpected way, where Brainiac's meddling turns Superman into a three-eyed wonder. Here's how it unfolds. Brainiac, that mischievous mastermind, gets his hands on some synthetic kryptonite, a fusion of the classic red and green varieties. He gleefully zaps Superman with it, and the result, our beloved hero sprouts a third eye right at the back of his head. But Superman isn't one to back down from a challenge. In a brilliant twist, he hatches a clever ruse. He pretends to go mad and dons a stylish hat to cover up his newfound mutation. But Brainiac, ever the prankster, isn't done yet. He launches an attack, complete with a dunce cap. But the green kryptonite within the red-green variety seems strangely ineffective, leaving us scratching our heads. However, the mutation lingers longer than the usual 24-hour kryptonite effect. Could it be that the green kryptonite somehow cranked up the mutation's intensity? It's a mystery, fellas. Opal Kryptonite. Opal Kryptonite, this gem of a story unfolds on Earth 2, where the brilliant Terrence Sloan concocts this synthesized version of kryptonite. Opal Kryptonite is no ordinary chunk of rock. It possesses the uncanny ability to send Kryptonians on a ride through the depths of temporary insanity. But Opal Kryptonite isn't a one-trick pony. It's got a limited shelf life. After a certain amount of time, it loses its dazzling effects and transforms into an ordinary stone. Marvelous verdict! And there you have it, a thrilling journey through the kaleidoscope of kryptonite, the iconic substance that adds layer upon layer of intrigue to the world of superheroes. From the classic green variety, sapping Superman's strength, to the bizarre and wacky variants that challenge our hero in unexpected ways, the Kryptonite saga is as diverse as the heroes it tests. We have witnessed kryptonite that mutates, maddens, and even mesmerizes. We've seen it turn heroes into villains and villains into heroes. Whether it's the synthetic concoctions of mad scientists, the rare and powerful gems, or the comically bizarre twists, kryptonite keeps our caped crusaders on their toes. So as we conclude this journey through the forms of kryptonite, we are reminded that even the most daunting challenges can be met with courage, wit, and a touch of comic book magic. Stay tuned for more adventures with us. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone, and see you soon.